I do think that their bill will pass, and I do think that they will release more of the file, and that'll be a huge brouhaha because there'll be a lot of people's names in there who have no culpability, and they'll scream and yell and say, my God, why are you doing this to me? And if they only release Democrats' names, well, that'll be obvious. And if they release Republican donors' names, they're going to scream and yell and say to Trump, why are you doing this? You're supposed to be my friend. I gave you all this money.
Now, the pressure on President Trump to release all the documents on the death of the convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein shows no sign of abating. He's now facing criticism for going back on his original pledge to release all the files. Now, President Trump has turned on some of his own supporters.
They're wasting their time with a guy who obviously had some very serious problems, who died 3-4 years ago. I'd rather talk about the success we have with the economy, the best we've ever had, and all of the things we've done, including the Middle East. I mean, you see it. Instead, they want to talk about the Epstein hoax. And the sad part is it's people that are really doing the Democrats' work. They're stupid people. Yeah, go ahead.
Stupid people. Well, that may not go down too well with some of his supporters. Let's talk to David Katz, who's a former assistant US attorney and federal prosecutor. Good evening to you, David.
Great to be with you, Carol.
Just explain, first of all, why is President Trump under so much pressure to release these files on the death of Jeffrey Epstein, who, of course, died in prison?
Well, our disingenuous president and Trump's credulous followers are being hoisted on their own petard because they have made this huge scandal out of Jeffrey Epstein's files, and that supposedly they point to a lot of very rich, very powerful, and they thought very democratic people. And it may be that they point to Trump, and it may be that they point to some of his very well-heeled donors. So all of a sudden, he's gotten an aversion, Trump has, to this full release of the documents, which, of course, is part of this whole narrative that they ought to be released. This is what the MAGA base wants to do. And this may actually be the final, or the first splintering of the Trump MAGA base, because his poor working-class white followers have really latched onto this as something that's going to expose this great elite, this deep state. And now Trump is saying, no, nothing to see here. And they very much want to see this. This is one of their big issues, a lot of the MAGA base, Carol.
Yeah, and we've even had the Republican Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, saying that he wants all these Epstein files to be revealed. And this comes after there was an official report, wasn't there, that simply says he took his own life. There's nothing more to say about it.
Well, you know, the true Jeffrey Epstein conspiracy believers use this expression that Epstein was suicided, and they make it look like he was actually murdered. And there are some very suspicious things about it. It's a very secure prison. I've actually been there, not with Jeffrey Epstein, but with a different client who was there in that prison. It's very secure. There's cameras all over. You have to believe that the guards were feckless. They weren't paying attention. A lot of people think that maybe they were paid off. And then to try to reassure the public, and especially the MAGA base, the Attorney General, this very Trumpy Bondi, she said, well, I'm going to release all of the recordings inside the jail. And when you release them, there's a minute that's missing. She has an explanation for that. Believe me, if the Democrats had put forth anything like that, the MAGA base would be howling. And the MAGA base, the part of it, the Steve Bannon part of it, that part of it, they are howling. And they're so invested in this issue. Apparently, this Dan Bongino, he's the podcaster, talk show host who's become the deputy director of the FBI. People can't believe it, but there he is. He's very invested in this issue. He supposedly threatened to quit over it. He didn't come to work Friday. And there's a huge feud between these very important parts of the Trump administration. This is the infighting, and now it's even including the speaker, because the speaker only has a 3 or 4 vote margin. And so all it takes is 3 or 4 votes, and pressuring the speaker. The Democrats bring this forward. They have a bipartisan bill. The bill predictably says release everything. and it's so easy to release everything. Everyone's wondering, why doesn't Attorney General Bondi and Trump endorse, release everything? And of course, the concern, not by the conspiracy people, but just the observers of this debacle, are that maybe there's something in it that really does hurt Trump or one of his very well-heeled Republican donors.
Yeah, because at the heart of all of this, I mean, President Trump did know Jeffrey Epstein for a while, didn't he?
Very well.
But he cut ties when the sex offences emerged and when he was convicted.
And, Carol, that's what everyone's defense is going to be. No matter how prominent the person is, no matter whether they went on the Epstein plane or something, they're going to say at that point, people had confidence in Epstein that he was some kind of mathematical guru. He had this unbelievable client list of clients who hired him. He had these top American, magnates of industry who seemed to be placing their trust in him. And you name him. Why should Bill Clinton not get on the plane? Because he thought that this guy was squirrely? No, the world did not think that he was squirrely. And Clinton and the others say, Trump is going to say, I had no reason to think so. But of course, the people who are really invested in this conspiracy theory, they want to see the actual files. And it should be pointed out that the files, to the extent of like the manifest of who was on the plane, who went to Epstein Island, that has been released, okay? But they're, of course, thinking that there's more in there. Where is the stuff that they've been, hankering for all of these years, the conspiracists? Where is it? And to have Bondi suddenly say he committed suicide, there was no malfeasance in that jail, there's nothing to see here, I'm not releasing any more. It was a slap in the face. And I do think that their bill will pass, and I do think that they will release more of the file, and that'll be a huge brouhaha because there'll be a lot of people's names in there who have no culpability, and they'll scream and yell and say, my God, why are you doing this to me? And if they only release Democrats' names, well, that'll be obvious. And if they release Republican donors' names, they're going to scream and yell and say to Trump, why are you doing this? You're supposed to be my friend. I gave you all this money.
David Katz, former Assistant U.S. Attorney. Great to speak to you. Thanks so much.